One thing that the establishment, the neocons, the rhinos, those behind the Federal Reserve System and Goldman Sachs, the one thing they want to prevent is for Ron Paul to go up on stage with thousands of cheering supporters and have to announce to the world, Ron Paul has won. This totally destroys their credibility. The 5 TV networks have been telling us for years, along with Sean Hannity, Rush Limbaugh, Glenn, and
with Ron
to some
Paul
extent Glenn Beck until recently.
Top.
They've been telling us Ron Paul's a fringe candidate, doesn't have a chance. His supporters are all nuts. They've been putting out phony polls one after another to try to make establishment hacks like Romney or Gingrich look like the front runner. You have to understand something. The Iowa caucus, the state Iowa GOP has a long history of rigging not only the Iowa caucus but also the Iowa straw poll. Now,
Republican insider, GOP establishment planning to subvert Iowa to prevent Ron Paul win. And
this is what's going on. Everyone remembers the 8-vote win, Mitt Romney over Rick Santorum.
Right.
That led directly to this inevitability narrative that Mitt Romney's the only candidate to win both Iowa and New Hampshire. Well, not so fast. Tomorrow the certification comes in, but here's what we know for sure so far.
Yeah.
In a county in Appanoose County, Iowa, Appanoose County,
okay,
southeastern corner of Iowa,
yep,
a young guy named Edward True attended that caucus, and he found that Mitt Romney was given 20 more votes than he actually received. He got 2 votes in that precinct, and but he was tallied with 20 in the official GOP total. Now, initially, there were all sorts of attempts to deny and dismiss and say, don't worry about it, but now nobody's back dismissing that fact. So if that number alone holds, that would give Rick Santorum a 12-point edge. Now, here's the thing.
I'm sorry, I just have to take a pause again to remind everyone. We're talking about 8, 12 people. It's amazing, in the United States of America.
But every vote counts.
Yeah.
Hey, Alex, I saw an anomaly at the Iowa caucus last night. I was an observer. I'm an Illinois resident, and Davenport, Iowa's right across the river. At the Radisson Hotel, there was 3 precincts. 2 of them were in one room. I was an observer. Specifically at one of them, it was Scott County D33. And they had a small number of people turned out, 34, and D63 had 263. They're kind of facing opposite directions in the room, and when they gave their speeches, it was all for both groups, okay? But when the votes were being counted, a strange thing happened. The lights turned off. Not when the votes were being counted, but when they were being collected, the lights turned off.
Oh, the lights turned off. That's like in an old whodunit movie. The lights turn off, and 20 seconds later, somebody has a knife in their chest. Let me ask you this. How long were the lights off?
Romney, Newt Gingrich, runoff from here to New Hampshire to South Carolina to Florida to whatever's next. If Ron Paul wins Iowa, we just take it out.
Afghanistan, perhaps in a nod to Ron Paul supporters. But at the end of the day, shouldn't this guy be a third-party candidate?
Well, even though he's a Republican, I mean, he is finishing what Reagan started. He wants to finish what Reagan started. He makes Gingrich look like a pretender in terms of federal spending. He wants to starve the federal government of money so that it can shrink and disappear. That's what he wants. That's what Reagan wanted. So, I mean, I don't see this guy as anything but a Republican. And a lot of Republicans were isolationists in the 1940s and the 1950s. This is not new to the Republican Party. So I think this talk that he's not a Republican is really convenient for the GOP to get this guy out of the way. And I think the second thing is he has to triangulate between support for him, for Romney, and then what is he going to do for his son, Rand Paul?
Well, you know who does, I want to bring, see what Willie says, but you know who does think he's a Republican is a huge chunk of the voters in the first 2 states in the Republican primaries.
Yeah, absolutely.
And people who identify with the Tea Party put him in second in New Hampshire. Evangelicals put him in second in New Hampshire. So it's not just this easy dismissal of saying, well, these states aren't representative. The self-identified conservative wings of the party are drawn to him, aren't they?
And I think his supporters view him as actually more than a Republican. He's a messenger for something. If you look at the exit polling out of New Hampshire, they said 77% said they were dissatisfied with the Obama administration. 4 years ago, his supporters, 78% of them said they were dissatisfied with the Bush administration. So it's not necessarily about whether it's a Democrat or a Republican in power. It's about raging against the machine if you're supporting Ron Paul.
Don't you find it interesting, though, and this is anecdotal, but remember the idea around McCain was that he's so old? Why is no one pointing out that Ron Paul is like 300 years old?
Because I think they really don't want to take that seriously because they see him as just kind of
to be fair,
a figurehead.
Yoda lived till 420.
That's true.
And we don't know how old Gollum was.
You know what Ron Paul does, though, that's unfortunate? The minute you try to take him seriously.
But a victory in the straw poll didn't equal an endorsement for Ron Paul from the group. That's because the Tennessee Republican Assembly held a separate vote for members only, and that vote decided to endorse Rick Santorum.
That is a straw poll. It has nothing to do with the Tennessee Republican Assembly's endorsement, except for the fact that it was held at our convention to generate interest.
The president of the Tennessee Republican Assembly, Glenn Hughes, says straw polls are only held to boost attendance and draw interest. It was made clear the endorsement and the straw poll were two separate votes. But Luthi says the information was not clear and he feels misled.
It seems to me that they, when they charged us our $5, that was under my impression that our vote would actually count towards their endorsement.
And the president of the Tennessee Republican Assembly also says everyone who purchased a straw poll ticket had the option to buy a discounted membership and take part in the endorsement vote.
So much, Erica. And we want to add, last night in our newscast, we mentioned that Rick Santorum won the Assembly straw poll, but as you just heard, the winner was actually Ron Paul. But is there
For sure. Well, thank you. Well, it's very good to visit with everybody. And again,
I have a quick question. Can I ask a quick question?
Okay.
I'd like to know if there could be a bill to go into Congress. My name is Kathy from Los Angeles. To stop the vote fraud.
That is another major problem. It's much bigger than I ever dreamed. Although I've been involved and been under, and lost elections in the past because of voter fraud. It is a major, major problem. So we can work very, very hard, and then it's the way, the old saying is, it's not the way who casts the votes, it's who counts the votes that really matters. And that has to do with a lot of local people. People in each individual state have to do some ballot security, and it's pretty discouraging. And I think some of that has already happened. We ran into that, pretty certain, at least in New Orleans and possibly some other states. But there are things that we can do, but it's going to be up to many of the individual states to watch that as well.